Season 2, baby! Oh my goodness, look at I got a chair and everything. In this video, I'm going to listen to all 915 different music genres that exist on this earth.
My name is Kent. I'm a filmmaker, and I like to tell stories about my journey through life. I'm a Gen Z product of the internet. I like to meme, stream, dream, repeat.
So the reason this project was so exciting to me is because I have such a weird relationship with music. I have this thing that the Germans call
Ohrwurm. Not even close, Kent.
which in English translates to earworm. And technically it's probably related to which is a mental illness. But moving swiftly along, it's actually kind of awesome, but horrifying at the same time. Whenever I listen to music, whatever the last song I listen to is, a part of that song will get stuck in my head and will infinitely loop until I listen to another song. I wish I was kidding. I truly do. Sometimes it's so bad, if I have the wrong song stuck in my head, I'll have to listen to a bunch of music before bed
to put a new sound in my head. Or even if I wake up from a dream and I have a song stuck in my head, I have headphones at my bedside so I can take care of that.
And it's also the reason I favor listening to something like jazz or lo-fi hip-hop, because those tunes loop pleasantly, as opposed to Miley Cyrus's hopped up the plane at LAX, hopped up the plane at, hopped up the plane at, hopped up the plane at. That's what happened. And one of my 2020 resolutions was to make a different playlist for every month of the year. And I actually did it. It was fascinating to go and look back at all of the different songs that I listened to. But I looked at it and I realized there wasn't more than like 100 songs spread out across all 12 months that I loved. I wish that was different. So I went on Wikipedia and I found a list of every recognizable music genre on Earth. We're talking African, Asian, Russian. There are just so many different types of music out there. I don't want to blame Spotify for this, but our wonderful algorithms that recommend us music don't exactly give us way out there stuff. It gives you stuff you're gonna like. I want to break that mold, and I want to find music that I don't get to listen to very often and music you don't get to listen to very often. So, by the end of this video, we are going to listen to all 900 of these genres, and we're going to put them in one playlist so you can listen to it too. I'm really excited to get started with this idea. Let's get to work.
OMG, is this guy actually gonna listen to 900 genres of music? Yes, I am. Those 900 plus genres were separated into categories, and there's 18 categories. Sometimes those categories separate the music by country or place of origin. Sometimes it's a separation of sounds. So I'm gonna take you on an adventure through most of the categories. I'm not gonna cover all of them in this video. The reason being, well, this video is already super long and I wanna make sure it's enjoyable content all the way through, so that's why I chose what I did. I'm gonna tell you the highs, the lows, the weird, the amazing, and tell you about the wonderful things I found inside of each category. Okay, everyone, before we continue on, before we carry into this video, there is one thing I have to talk about, and that is copyright music. I made a Spotify playlist of almost 900 songs. You should check that Spotify playlist out if you want to participate and listen to the music. Every category and genre that I mentioned is in that playlist. For this video, I am not gonna play a single one of those songs because this is YouTube, and for me as a creator to monetize my videos, I can't do that. So that being said, I am going to be using Epidemic Sound, which is a music subscription service, which lets me use all of this music for a little bit of a fee. I'm going to be matching the songs as closely as I can to the correct genre. So when I say certain genre, it's gonna play music that sounds as close as I could get to it, but not the actual song. If you wanna hear the actual songs, links are in the description to hear that playlist. Follow it, enjoy it. There's a lot in there I think you'll love. Okay, on with the video. Yo, category number 1, So in the African category, there were 46 different genres, and those genres averaged 2 out of 5 stars. 0 of the songs had 5 stars, but 14 of them had 1 star. The top 3 genres that had 4 stars were African hip-hop,
Baby girl, let the ice break. Give you all what your life is.
Afro-pop,
Ja, me ser den tid du gav mig life be like yo.
and Shagan Electro.
fun to listen to. They all brought a little different flavor, and it was super exciting to listen to music like this because it was truly sounds that I was not used to, things I don't hear a lot. Now, there were quite a few 1 stars, but I'll tell you about 3 of them. Bikutsi, Genji, and Jikon. These 3 weren't bad, they just didn't have a high rating of re-listenability, which is a word I made up for this video. Some of them started off different, or they just had a different pacing than I expected or was really into. This genre was really special to me because when I was in college, the African students that attended my school threw a party, a dance party to be specific. It was the most welcoming party I've ever been to. I do not know how to dance to African music, but I walked up and they brought me into the circle and they immediately taught me how to dance, made me one of the group, and we just had the night of our lives. It is one of the most distinct memories from college because it was the most welcome I ever felt in a group. Listening to this category of African music made me feel like that again. A lot of the music is familiar in a sense, but there are going to be noises in there that you do not recognize, and that's what makes it special. Instead of just hearing a drum kit, you hear someone's hands hitting the drums. Some of the synth noises that are popular there are noises that used to be popular, or are noises that we don't really hear very often. It's just a great genre. I highly recommend you check it out. The next category was Asian, and there were 4 genres inside the Asian category. But don't worry, there's 2 other Asian categories, so don't be confused that there's only 4. The average rating out of 5 stars was 1.5. And I think the reason for that is because a lot of these songs were much different than what I was used to, or expecting. One of the highest rated genres was Haliji. And it was actually beautiful. The song was really long, and the sounds had almost this very distinct profile to them. It had a nice beat in the background, and it had a nice flow throughout the whole song, but it just wasn't what I expected. Doesn't make it bad, but doesn't make it my favorite either. The lowest rated one was Fijiri. And this one was a little bit strange to me. Had a really deep voice in it and some yelling, which was kind of odd. But it did have these really beautiful chimes in the background, and I thought that that added a nice texture to the song. So the next category was East Asian, with 14 different genres in it. It had an average star rating of 3 stars, and it had 3 5-star songs and 1 1-star song. Inside this category, there was actually quite a few familiar genres. K-pop, J-pop, C-pop, Hong Kong English pop, V-pop, P-pop, all kinds of good stuff. I happen to be a K-pop fan, not necessarily a K-pop stan, but I'm not against it, so don't come after me. We're cool, right? The 3 5-star genres were Hong Kong English pop, HKE pop. Everybody know I'm a visual. Yeah, I kill it cold like a criminal. K-pop. I don't need that diamond ring. Yeah, I'm heartbreaker. What I love so much about this category is that this sound belongs to them. You know, American pop music has its sound, and East Asian pop music has its sound and its look and its feel. I love it. Mando Pop, I chose the song Maria, and you have to check this song out. It's just unique and awesome. I didn't actually realize how many of these pop songs I was listening to that fell into the Mando Pop category, but it's just like a little different. It's kind of like a little edgier K-pop. The 1 star was, oh God, how do you say this? Onkyoki, Onkyoki. And to be honest, it was just really weird and creepy. Highly recommend it though. You'll find me doing that often, where it's like the best ones, I'm like, yeah, they're great, they're awesome. But the worst one, you gotta hear this one. This is one of those. It's very odd. It's deep and dark and full of strange noises, and it's confusing. And that's why I got 1 star, because I was like, I'm probably never gonna listen to this again. But at the same time, it was fascinating. An honorable mention that you should check out is Kawaii Metal. It's literally K-pop, but metal. Fascinating listen. I gave it 4 stars just because it was so interesting. The group I chose here is called Band Maid. It's wild, to say the least. The next category was Avantgarde, and it had 5 genres in it, with the highest rating of all of them
of 3.8 stars. I think that's because this was the most confusing one at the same time. To define avant-garde, it's kind of like the forefront of innovation of music. So the weirdest, the wildest, the most out there stuff, that's what falls in here. There was 1 5-star and 0 1-stars. Because there's only 5, I'm just gonna tell you all of them. We had experimental music, noise, literally just noise, lo-fi, musique concrète, and electroacoustic. The 5-star was lo-fi, and I chose the song Eternal Youth by Rude. If you have not heard this song, good lord. If you like lo-fi hip-hop, this song will blow your mind. I have to talk about noise. This was the strangest thing I've ever listened to. It was pretty much just like exactly what you think it is. It was like 11 minutes of ocean and wind and I don't even know what else, gravel maybe? It was so strange. But at the same time, it really pushed my thinking of what music is. Music is just sound, isn't it? So noise should fall into that category, especially if it's arranged in a beautiful way. I highly, highly recommend. Put on some headphones, sit down. This is one of the hardest things for people to do who don't just like listen to music, but just sit down and listen to what I put in the noise category. This song is called Big Universe 250 Hertz. Just trust me. Avant-garde, the strangest, weirdest, but highest rated category of them all. The next category is Caribbean and Caribbean influence, and this had 39 genres in it. The average star rating for this category was 3, and it had 2 5-star songs and 0 1-star songs. I already kind of knew that I loved this category because in January of 2020, before COVID happened, I was on a road trip with my wife and some friends. We ended up in Miami and we were listening to reggaeton almost non-stop. And there was a memory I have being on the beach, eating a burger, looking out at the ocean, listening to reggaeton, and that cemented this genre in my head as one of my favorites because I associate it with that memory. That's what music does. It puts you in a place and it gives you an emotion and it gives you a feeling. And I'm so glad that I can associate this category and genre with that. Moving forward, let me read you the 5-star genres that you should check out. Calypso and reggaeton.
Yo te quiero pero déjame, no me amas eso se te ve.
In Calypso, there's so many of these island sounds coming through that make this awesome banger dance track. It's so fun. Actually, this was one of the first genres that was recommended on my TikTok series where I am listening to every single one of these songs in their own unique video. So if you want to check that out, go head over to my TikTok. I have the longest username possible. You might enjoy what I post in there. And then of course, reggaeton itself, I chose the song X or X. This song goes so hard, it's difficult to put it into words. A lot of this is like club music, and it's really fun to dance to. And you know how I said about African genre, it's really just like a welcoming, come join us dance? I kind of get that feeling too. I want to be in a backyard, I want to be at a barbecue with friends listening to this type of music. Some interesting ones that I recommend that were on the lower end, Toubadou, I think that's how you say it. It's almost like island country music. Kind of interesting. And Compass with 1 S, so maybe it's pronounced different. But it was a really nice track to listen to. It's more chilled, more vibey, but has this really nice island vibe that's just, I don't know, puts a smile on your face. A lot of the songs in this category were much more upbeat than a lot of the other categories. And that's why I think a lot of this category was higher rated, because it got me excited while listening to it, and well, that kind of leads to higher stars. Some of the songs too had these big bands behind them that had tons of instruments, and that was awesome to listen to. What a pleasure to be able to listen to like a big band play you a big song. I want to see that live. So if you're from somewhere I can listen to music like that, I think Cuba is one of those places. I want to come visit and I want to see music like that. So does Jamie, right Jamie?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next category is country with 37 genres in it and an average star rating of 2.8. 1 5-star song and 2 1-star songs. I won't lie, I have a bit of a prejudice going into country music. I did not grow up in a place where country music was very popular, so I just kind of have this prejudice that I don't really like country music. But as I listened through this category, I found so many things about it that I liked. Storytelling, it's kindness, it's just appreciation for what's around, and it's kind of beautiful. There's nothing wrong with a guitar, some sounds that kind of like represent the country. It's cool. So I want to tell you about country pop. And the reason that is because I actually got Bryan Lanning, a country pop artist, to talk to me and help me better understand what it's like to make country music. The reality is, if I'm gonna make an entire video about music and not talk to a music artist, well then I did something wrong. So here's that FaceTime with Bryan. Yo man, how are you? I'm great. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Over the past like 3 months, I really took this project on and have listened to one song in every one of those genres. And it's been awesome. Learned a ton. And I wanted to speak to you because I wanted to speak to a few artists and kind of learn their side of music genres. Because I went through it and I thought to myself, you know, this is great to define a ton of music, but do musicians want to be defined? You know?
I mean, I've had so many different genres like influence me throughout my life. Like growing up in high school and middle school, I listened to a ton of like pop punk, like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, like The Used. And it's funny because you can hear a lot of that in my own music, a lot with like my drums, and like I really love big guitars and stuff. So it's interesting because when I'm producing like all this new music that I'm doing now, I find myself going back to like, oh, that sounds like something I listened to when I was in 10th grade.
That's great. That I think leads into my next question is like, what do you listen to? I know you kind of, I love the music that you make, but what is it that you consume that entertains you the most?
So I love listening to like R&B and pop and rock. But then I also go back to like some of the 60s and 70s stuff that my mom used to play on records, like Carole King and Ben King and Bing Crosby, like all these amazing artists.
And that's one of the things I learned about going back, because there was a whole period of listening to old music in a sense. And I learned so many things from that because in a sense the sound is simpler. There's a lot less going on than I would say in modern music where sometimes it's this huge production. But there are still familiar sounds and patterns and like notes, not the like note itself, but like a taste of it in modern everything. And I think that's so cool. And I totally, now that you mention all of these things, when listening to your music, I hear that. I hear these things that come through that kind of like, I don't know, are a little bit of a nod in a sense, or just how you want.
Just kind of like, oh, I love that guitar tone for some reason. Then we figure out like if it's the same one from Fall Out Boy or something, you know?
That is so cool. Cool, man. Well, seriously, thank you. I'm gonna include you in the playlist in country pop. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah.
Again, seriously, thank you, man. I really appreciate you.
Oh, have a good rest of your day.
Likewise. Talk soon. Bye. Bryan makes awesome music. You gotta check him out. Links are down below. I do recommend it. A couple other genres I wanna mention in here. We've got country rap, which was really interesting, honky tonk, Nashville sound, and truck driving country. Now I think those are the kind of like the easy buzzwords of country music, but I want you to know there is a vast amount of sounds in here and there actually is some really good stuff. So if you're not into country, I actually recommend checking some of these out. It might change your mind just a little bit. All right, the next category. This one was a doozy, electronic music with 222 genres. This category took a very long time to listen to. The average rating was 3 stars and there were 15 5-star songs and 8 1-star songs. Now, as I was listening to it, I couldn't decide. I was going back and forth on whether I thought this is too many genres or this is not enough genres, because electronic, surprisingly, most of the songs were different enough to warrant a different genre. Some of the weird ones that really stood out to me were dungeon synth, Ethereal wave.
There's a world inside my head. I get lost in it from time to time.
Funktronica. Moombathon. Glitch. And grime. Now, electronic was all over the place. Some had lyrics, some didn't, some had a lot of dubsteppy noises, some didn't. A lot of artists you're familiar with, a lot you definitely haven't heard of. Exploring this category is a pretty good idea to just become more versed in electronic music. I think as an American, we actually consume quite a lot of this because it's what ends up in our top 100. If you're a top 100 listener, no shame to you. It's totally fine. It's all good music, but it might be interesting to listen to some of these and just explore other types that you might be into. Because like I said, there's so many genres in here, you might find some like niche categories that you're into. Some of the weirdest ones that I have to tell you about were vomit step. I couldn't explain to my friend what vomit step was, but once you listen to it and you hear the kind of like bass drop noise, which is vomit step actually lined up perfectly. You're like, yep, actually that's what that is. A little honorable mention was Baltimore Club. I'm from Maryland and I didn't know Baltimore had its own genre, but when I listened to it, it actually was weirdly familiar. It has like a really classic vintage, I don't know, not vintage, but older vibe to it, and then it goes straight into a drop. And it was actually kind of fun to listen to. Again, something I just would have never really heard before, but I'm glad I got to listen to. Electronic was exhausting to make it through all of them, but definitely worth the listen.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like.
Next up, we had hip-hop with 52 genres and an average star rating of 3.3. 5 songs had 5 stars and 2 songs had 1 star. Hip-hop, I would say, is my most popular genre. How would I say that? My favorite genre, the one I listen to the most. And I think that's because I grew up on it. I remember my first ever album that someone showed me was this weird hip-hop, like remix type album. And to this day, I don't know what it was. I know it was purple, but I can't find it anywhere. Maybe it's a story for another video of trying to track it down. But that album, just there was so many distinct hip hop record scratches and rap bits and combinations of songs which introduced me to sampling. Just blew my mind. And that's where my love for hip hop began. My favorite album of all time, Yay, which lives up on my wall, and my favorite music producer, Jon Bellion, belong in this genre. And those musicians just blow me away when I listen to their music. The 5 stars included old school hip hop, some fast rap,
Motto left home in her man in the game that he played for the sand of the shade. She parades you to swear in her shades.
and some experimental / electronic kind of music. The 2 1 stars were crunkcore and nerdcore.
And it's loaded and locked. Nazis running away while I'm shooting them up. Capping control points and completing the mission. Only in that kill cam where you see my position.
Those were just really strange. The rap lyrics were interesting, to say the least, and the songs themselves were just bizarre. But I guess that's what makes them unique, so it was okay. I learned a lot about rap, starting at the beginning, moving to what's more modern. Rap is so synonymous with modern culture, and I think that came from a few trailblazers in the very beginning of rap and hip hop, defining themselves as artists and defining themselves as a new sound. We really owe what modern music is to those people, those artists, for really standing up for themselves and standing up for their art and just continuing to push. Listening to some of the most classic rap artists like Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, NWA, Wu-Tang Clan, which I never really gave a lot of time to. I knew that they were part of the rap community, but I never really listened to them. To sit down and just dig in and listen, you hear so much impactful music, talking about actual issues and caring about pushing everything forward. And a lot of the music that existed in early hip hop was protest song. It was talking about culture. It was talking about important issues that they wanted to get across. I have so much respect for this genre for that. And then to talk about new school stuff, where a modern hip hop artist is trying to constantly redefine what their sound is. Like it or not, Kanye West making a Christian rap album in a sense, and a lot of other artists sampling like a 50s song and turning it into like a trap rap album, or sampling like an old school country song, and now we have Old Town Road. Hip hop is really cool because it's just become this huge hodgepodge of everything, and that makes it special.
Lucky, lucky, lucky me. Lucky, lucky, lucky me.
Next up is pop music with 70 genres and an average star rating of 3.25. I actually love the pop category. Now in America, pop is probably the biggest one, right? Like I said earlier, our top 100 is a combination of electronic, pop, and hip hop. So pop is pretty important. Pop had 3 5-star songs and 0 1-star songs. The beginning of the pop category was awesome because it was a bunch of like multicultural pop. We had Arabic pop, canción, Euro pop, and French pop, which was really fun to hear pop music from around the world. A similar sound with that synth and like an electric guitar and just what you kind of expect. But it wasn't in English, and that made for some really awesome listens. Then moving into the more American stuff, you had the classics in there. I was really excited to hear some of my favorite artists in there, like Maroon 5 and Post Malone, Miley Cyrus, Ariana Grande. Love them or hate them, I think they make great music. I love being able to add Justin Bieber to some of these. He is one of my favorite artists of all time. I love his new stuff. A couple really awesome ones were psychedelic pop, I will say, I kind of noticed that there's like 2 sides of pop. I think pop music has a bit of a formula. It's pretty straightforward on how to make a pop song, and I think a lot of music falls into that, not trap, but just pattern. Some of the songs you go, yes, this is a good pop song because they followed all the rules of what pop music should be. But then there's other pop music that really takes it to a different level, takes it to their own place. Each artist makes it their own, and that makes it enjoyable. Sometimes in America, for like a month or 2, we get in a place where all of our music sounds really similar, and it's because everyone followed the same pattern, but then someone comes through and breaks that mold, and we've got some great music again. Listening to the 70-some genres in here, definitely a lot of the songs fell into that trap that I would say of hitting that pattern, that formula. And I definitely dock stars for that. I grew up on pop music, so I will always love it, and it was a joy to listen to. Holy cow, we are almost at the end. All right, second to last, we have rock with 151 genres and a star rating of 2.6. This category had 6 5-star songs and 23 1-stars. This category was easily the hardest to get through. And that's because I don't really love metal, and this was a lot of metal. What I found about the rock category is like rock, like the classic stuff, like your alternatives, your indie rock, your classic rock, your industrial rock, your pop rock, the ones that your like dad listens to on the radio. But inside rock also is metal, and I almost think metal should have been its own category because there was so many different types of metal. I have never been screamed at for so long. Now, that being said, there is actually some metal that I enjoy. My interpretation of metal when I went into this category was that it's just screaming for no reason, and that has definitely changed. I will say, there's this one group in there called Dance Gavin Dance that plays some of the most beautiful melodic music and then immediately cuts into like this intense screaming, like ah, and then right back beautiful, whimsical singing, and it's kind. And that was when I understood what metal is. Every genre of music in this whole video represents a taste, a flavor, a time, a place, a feeling. And rock and metal, specifically metal, I think represents anger. And that's okay, that's good. That's good that there is a genre of music that represents that. I just don't feel angry very often, so maybe it wasn't for me. There's a few of these that I actually truly love. Like I said, Dance Gavin Dance was really lovely. Experimental rock. folk rock. But then we had like D beat, which was literally just like I said, I think this was just the most divisive. I had a lot of them that I gave like 4 or 5 stars, and then a lot of them that I gave 1 star. I learned a lot listening to this category of music, and it's not all just screaming and yelling for no reason. There is sometimes a beautiful song underneath it. You just gotta know what you're getting into. If it's for you, more power to you. But if it's not, it's definitely not. I'll say that. Last but not least, we are closing it out with classical music with 22 songs and a star rating of 2.7. 0 5-star songs, 1 1-star song. I was shocked. I actually usually love classical music, but I think I like popular classical music. I learned so much about this category because there is a lot of classical music out there. Obviously, this is kind of what was popular for most of music's history. This is one of the first categories to really define the music by date, and the music in this first category started in 500, the year 500. That's crazy, and it went all the way to modern times. I listen to classical music often as like a background, and often I'll just be like, play Beethoven, because that's just like what comes to my brain. Little did I realize how genius someone like Beethoven actually is, because his music is fascinating to listen to. There is so much going on, so much to catch, that it makes for a truly enjoyable song. Now, not to diss every other composer out there, but some of these like Ars Nova and Baroque music, some of that music was really boring and like 20 minutes long, and that's fine, and I like sat and listened to it and took it in, but oftentimes it would just be a lot of the same or something that maybe I just didn't understand. Classical music is beautiful because it's so large. It's like a group playing together, and that's always impressive. I haven't seen much like classical music live before, and I'd love to. I think that would change the experience because you really get to experience all that is going on. Classical was enjoyable, and I think every person should listen to it because there is something in there for everyone. Whether it's your background, whether it's what you love to listen to, whether it's just something that you have experienced, it is worth it. It's an important part of musical history. Guys, we did it. That was my adventure through listening to every genre of music on earth. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments down below. Again, the Spotify link is in the description, probably one of the first lines. If you want to check out this project, go for it. Just spin that playlist. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for supporting my content. Please subscribe. We're going to be posting videos every Wednesday. I'm super excited about it. Here's a little nugget for you if you made it all the way in this video. My favorite of all of the categories, not genres, categories, was Caribbean and Caribbean influence. That music is so much fun. Honorable mention is African, just because those were the 2 genres that are just most unlike what I'm familiar with, but I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I also loved the whole like pop genre, but the East Asian pop, where it's like the K-pop, the C-pop, the J-pop, the T-pop, which is like Japan pop, China pop, Taiwan pop. It was awesome. There's so much great music in there, and it's just enjoyable to listen to. And also, I will slay you in some BTS Beat Saber, no issues. I made it clear, but metal was the hardest for me to listen to. If you have metal recommendations based on what I said I liked, please do reach out and let me know. But I guess that's all there is to say. Finish that heart, follow your dreams, and I will see you in a video next Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching. This was the most enjoyable project I have done in years. Peace.